For once, y'all, it's under 85 degrees right now. I'm not even kidding. I've got parts of Wake Me Up When September Ends stuck in my head. But I can't remember enough of the song to sing it and get it out of my head, you know? Wake me up when September ends. Oh my god, Cappy, that might be your first time being first. Yes, literally. You are our first commenter of the day. You're number one, Cappy. You can't lose your crown. Although if somebody super chats, you probably will anyway. Your spelling is fine, Cappy. You're fine. I was literally waiting. Hey. Here I am. Ready to face the day. Glitch Dash. Did you change your profile picture? Why? Oh, no, there it is. Okay. I was about to say, what the fuck? The world is ending? Not fucking likely. As much as I'd like to believe that's true, I'm pretty sure the world's going to keep on ticking for a very, very long time. I think every generation of human beings has a few people that really genuinely thinks the world is ending, and I'm given to that impression as well, but I also know logically that things don't happen like they do in a Roland Emmerich film. Things are not going to collapse all at once and leave us with the opportunity to sit around eating popcorn and watching it happen on the news. It's not how things happen, you know? By the time you realize that the world has ended and that civilization is over, that human beings have been restored to a pre-civilizational time, there will be no more popcorn. By the time you get to that point, there will be no more news television or anything like that. And so, Uncle Incel? Cappy says, oh, I remember you, but I don't remember shit. Uncle Incel. You know what, though? If you're, like, that's the fucked up thing, though, right? If you're confident enough about yourself to call yourself an incel online, like, just transpose that same confidence into your personality generally, and then go out and get a girlfriend. Like, what's the hold up, you know? What's the stopping factor there? Peter Griffin's stream? You know it. But it's actually Patricia now, thank you. No, it's actually Phoebe, but you get the idea. You got the joke. Most uncles are incels? Not in my experience. None of my uncles were incels. All of my uncles were cool people. All of my uncles were legitimately cool people. It's been a fucking day, Phoebe. Let's end it right. Well, by God, we will. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send the stream out to even more people, which is the best way to increase the quality of your viewing pleasure by increasing the number of people engaging in the chat, which you can also do by asking me an intelligent, reasonable question. We follow 3 basic rules here: readability, originality, and interestingness. If you can follow those 3 guidelines, you can post just about anything in here. We can argue about whatever you want. I love to argue with people who disagree with me, but it all starts with you hitting that like button, sharing this stream, and helping to put the word out. And if you want to make sure your question gets read, consider sending super chat. I read through chats, but the only chats I put a priority on are super chats. Since everybody's an incel at some point, I mean, like, incel is a very specific thing. Most people never have like an incel phase. Most people definitely have a phase where they don't really understand how to get laid and they don't really understand what they're doing and everything. But like, to me, incel implies like a whole mindset. To me, incel implies like a whole personality strain, a whole kind of mindset and attitude, like a philosophy about life and a mindset more than anything. And I don't know that everybody goes through that. I think most people are able to retain somewhat of a level head about it as things go on. I mean, he was on the Epstein list. Who? Who was? Who was? Make sure you guys hit that like button. LGBTQ, yes. So pardoning Diddy is just the second part. Do what now? What's going on? Who's going on? I agree there's people who can't get laid that are not incels. Well, yeah. I mean, like, there's all kinds of people who can't get laid that aren't incels. I mean, it is like a mindset thing. It's a matter of how you think about yourself. It's a matter of how you think about other people, you know? Trump says he may pardon Diddy. What's even to pardon at this point? Wouldn't it just be like his prostitution charges? What is it? Like, he's not... I thought he wasn't facing prison time for that. I thought he was facing, like, house arrest or some shit like that. Am I wrong? Somebody's going to have to update me on the Diddy news. I'll be honest with you. I pretty much just accept that celebrities at a certain level are probably diddlers on some level. And so I really kind of find it hard to find, like, to follow these, like, sexual misconduct cases they go on with celebrities. Because it's just like, yeah, like, okay, money corrupts, power corrupts, money generates more money, the more power. You get absolute power and absolute money. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and now you've got a person who is completely unsatisfied by the pursuit of capital gains, by the pursuit of material wealth. And you kind of have to start assuming that at a certain level of success and fame and fortune, most people are probably engaging in some pretty heinous shit. Not everybody. Obviously, there are some people that, like, the allegations just remain so fucking far from them. They're, like, just not accused of that kind of thing. It doesn't seem like that's their fucking gig. I admit that it's not everybody. But I think that it's such a problem in that type of atmosphere because, like, wealth, it doesn't really make sense much anymore for you to place a lot of your happiness in things that you can only get through buying them, you know? Like, what joy is there in buying a TV if you could buy the entire store's worth of TVs? Do you use the Bible to support all immigration? And so I don't use the Bible a whole lot in my arguments, but yes, if I'm arguing with a Christian, I'll explain how the Bible is actually definitely in support of treating foreigners well. It is definitely arguably in support of a more cosmopolitan world. I guess it depends on your interpretation of the Bible, what exegesis you come away with, but that's the interpretation that I was raised with and the interpretation I've always ran with, you know, until I became like an atheist, pagan, whatever hippie weirdo I am these days, you know? If Trump was on the list, why didn't Biden release it? Because Biden is on the list too. Because Biden and his son, or like probably multiple of his sons, honestly, it's probably not just Hunter that's on that list. It's probably Hunter and Beau both on that list. Or is Beau the one that died real young? I don't remember. Anyway, I'm sure Biden has family on that list. I'm sure Biden himself is probably on that list. We know for a fact that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are probably on that list. We know that associates of theirs were on the list. We know like, we've had enough leaks and enough rumors and enough, like, kind of anonymous source confirms to know at this point that it's a shit ton of American politicians across all kinds of political aisles, too. It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats, too, baby. Democrats, Republicans, probably some independents out there. I don't know. It's all over the place, though. All over the political spectrum, all over the social spectrum. But you know what? It's people from one very specific part of the class spectrum. It's not poor people on the Epstein list. It's rich people. Rich motherfuckers. People whose entire lives are predicated already, before you even fucking consider the exploitation they are involved with against children. They predicate their lives on your suffering, on your degradation, the stagnancy of your wages. They are already exploitative by nature before we even get into the nature of their crimes against children. And now it comes out that a profound amount of these powerful people who own and control the corporations that own and control this country, and the politicians who are owned and controlled by those rich powers and those moneyed interests, now we're finding out that a whole lot of them were involved in this massive conspiracy to cover up the sexual abuse of children. This is going to fucking reshape American politics. Opinion on Israel and Gaza? I feel like I've gone over this a lot lately, but we can go over it again. I don't think these two groups have demonstrated a very good capacity for living next to one another. And I think there's two routes that you can take with that. Either you can force some kind of Pax Americanus in the region. You can make it so that none of them can fight one another with guns and weapons and tanks. Or you can remove one group of those people. And I don't like the removal option because it rings of fascism to me. I don't know, something about taking a bunch of people saying, you can't live here anymore, sorry. And when they ask why, you say, because the government said so. Something about something about that rings as fascist to my mind. You know, that's just something about me, you know. I really am not a big fan of the whole, like, let's forcibly move a bunch of people to a different location. You know, it's a bit Trail of Tearsy to me. So my solution is the former, to bring some kind of peacekeeping force to this region to ensure that these people have to learn how to get along, how to live next to one another, and accept one another's beliefs for what they are without sending bombs and rockets at each other. And I think that the state that should be left in the wake of that should be a united Israel-Palestine. United, not a Jewish homeland, not an Arabic homeland or whatever, not religiously ordained in any way. Maybe we call it Israelistine. Maybe we call it the American Mandate for Israel and Palestine. That'd be a real funny name, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be a good one? We can call it fucking Wyoming for all I care. We just need to make it happen. We need to get the whole question of ethnic purity and religious purity and shit out of the structure of Israel. I don't that there needs to be like a Jewish state, so like, you know, I don't think that that's like critically important to the continuation of humanity. I understand that there's a lot of Christians who don't think that Jesus is going to come back until we restore the Jewish people to their homeland. But I'm sorry, I don't think your fucking particular interpretation of a bunch of Bronze Age fucking myths should constitute meaningful fucking reaction to policies these days. I think a different set of standards and a different set of concerns have become more commonplace, and I think it's time we begin considering those when it comes to the question of Israel. It is totally fine that the region that comes out of the conflict continues to support a right of return for Jewish people. I agree that whatever this new country would be would contain in it the Jewish homeland, and I think as part of that it would be perfectly fine to continue to allow some kind of right of return. But I'm sorry, you're going to have to let the Arabs in the region have some fucking say as to exactly how many people are able to come and how much land gets sold and when, where, and how and why. I'm sorry, but these people cannot be treated like second-class citizens because you want to protect the right of Jewish people to come back in order for Jesus to come back someday. I'm sorry, that's just a bad reason for policy. That's some fucking Bronze Age bullshit needs to be fucking extricated from our society, from our legal system, from our political framework. Hate from Palestine, what's up? What do you think about the school system? You might have to ask me a more specific question. Like, in general, I don't think the American school system is very functional. Let me just turn on idiot mode, like I call it. We're going to just set a 1-minute subscriber time, and we're going to set a 30-second slow mode, which I think will be more than low enough for people to get through. It's perfectly fine. I don't care what people have to say about me. I just care that I can read the chat. And outside of employing like a giant team of like 70 mods, it would be pretty much impossible to engage with my chat if I just let it be like that crazy. So, by the way, there's 691 people in here watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button. If half of you guys did it right now, we would have over 300 likes. We would have over 345 likes like that. So please, double tap your screen, hit the little button over here on the railway, and if you want to make sure your question gets read, consider sending a super chat. Not only is it a great way to financially support the channel, but it is the best way to make sure that your question gets read amongst a very full and very fast chat. I liked, thank you. If it's crazy, if you left it on, you probably have 1,000 people watching, but it's horrible. Oh, we might still grow in viewership. I mean, it just depends, you know. Here, we'll turn it off for a second. We'll see what happens. You know, we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. But, you know, I don't think it makes much of a difference, honestly. I think it just depends on whether or not we're having an interesting conversation, ultimately. But we'll turn it off for a second and see what happens. Yeah. Well, I'll keep it on slow mode because that, you know, that's not as obtrusive as like the subscriber mode. But yeah, we'll see if it has any effect at all on viewership, and if my mods complain about it, we can turn it back on. But for now, we'll see if it has any effect, because I don't really think it does, but maybe it does, you know? No harm in testing it. Oh no, chat is unreasonable, don't! Oh my god, I hope you guys know, all of you people that are in here, like, just hate watching and commenting standpoint, my mods and my regulars right now hate my ass for this. You guys should consider this a deep and abiding privilege, okay? She or it? She. It works too, though, I guess. Why do you feel the need to have a flag for your sexuality? Because people feel the need to hang people like me on fence posts for my sexuality. Any more questions? Wouldn't be such a big deal if people weren't willing to commit violence against trans people, queer people, and gay people in general, just for the fact that we're queer. Time for mods to toke. Yeah, basically. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send this out to even more people, which increases the chances of your viewing quality going up and up and up by increasing the number of people in the chat. Yeah, you support Palestinians who would execute me? Palestinians wouldn't execute me. Fundamentalist Muslims might. But I gotta tell you something about fundamentalist Muslims. Fundamentalist Muslims are made. They're not born. Not everyone living in the territory of Palestine is a fundamentalist Muslim. But I got news for you. America's choice to continue propping up Israel despite their fucking war crimes, despite their crimes against humanity, that decision alone has led to way more religious fundamentalism in that region than would otherwise exist. If America had adopted a more liberal policy, if America had adopted a more leftist policy, kind of like some of the policies I've been talking tonight, if America had done something like that 50, 60, 70 years ago, we wouldn't be in this conflict right now. because there would be assimilated peoples over there. Muslims would be living willingly right next to Jewish people. Jewish people would be living willingly right next to Muslim people, and they would all be going to the same restaurants and going to the same bars, those of them that chose to drink, and they would be going to the same parks and occupying the same schools. The only thing different about them is which holy day they which holy day they go to church on and what church they go to. That would be the only difference between them if America had chosen to go about this issue a different way. But because America has chosen to allow Israel to be as fucking hostile as it wants to be to Palestine, Palestine is now full of religious fundamentalism. Not full of it, like, completely. I'm being hyperbolic, obviously, but there's a real profound problem with it, just like there is in Iran, another country that America just can't stop fucking with. Huh. It's almost like we're detecting a pattern here, y'all. You mean place of worshiping? Yeah, I'm not fucking... Don't language police me, bitch. I say what I want over here. It's a church, okay? I was raised in the Deep South. It's a church. They may call it a mosque or a synagogue, but it's a church, all right? Trump, thank you for the $9.99. I appreciate that. I don't necessarily agree with your vote for president, but I also can't blame you for your vote for president because your other option was zanned out crazy bitch Kamala Harris. So it's like, am I going to shit on you for that? Why would I, you know? I appreciate the $9.99. Don't give it 10. No, give it 100. Literally. No, like, don't give me $10. Give me $100. No, I'm kidding. I really do appreciate the $10. Thank you. What's up, dude, bro, guy? I don't know. What's up, girl, chick, girl? Smoking rainbow sherbet? No. No. I'm not quite that high maintenance, okay? What's wrong with Kamala? Oh, where do I start, man? I feel like Kamala represents a huge fucking slide in the standards of the Democratic Party and in the standards of the left, you know? Like, Kamala Harris made her career as a prosecutor in the Bay Area. That's what Kamala Harris is. She's a cop. And I don't know about you, but I'm not for cops in the modern sense as they exist in America. I'm for a way different model of policing. I'm not about, like, get rid of the cops. I mean, maybe on a long enough time scale, obviously. But, like, in the immediate term, we need policing, but we need something that actually works for people and that makes our society more functional, that isn't just looking to make money off of people and throw people in prison for whatever fucking reason that they need to in order to support the prison industrial complex. So you think about somebody who's worked at a high level in that system, being one of the people who determines who goes to prison and who doesn't. You think you want that person who's like top cop in the Bay Area, who has been so fucking hypocritical? She's sent more people to prison for weed than the next fucking 5 small town prosecutors you could name combined. She sent more people to prison for weed than probably a lot of big city prosecutors have, because she's from one of the biggest cities in America. So think about that for a second. And now she goes around saying that after college, she was sitting around listening to rap albums and smoking a bunch of weed. So that would be like the same time she's gearing up to start fucking kicking people's ass into prison for cannabis. Now she's going around and she's high all the time. This is not a fucking legitimate person with honest morals and a good ethical framework that you can fucking trust. Okay? Oh shit, thank you so much. That's really kind. $100, Beldor. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're correct. The U.S. Israel didn't cause Hamas. Also, always pro-police. Well, we may disagree on that, but I do appreciate the $100. As far as Israel and the U.S. creating Hamas, I don't know how you blame them. Like, I don't know how you would attribute them to anything else. The United States and its choice to continue propping up Israel despite its war crimes, despite its denial of aid, despite it working with the terrorists at times to make sure that the violence continues, despite all of this shady bullshit that has gone on, right? I don't know how you could look at that and say that our involvement has had no effect, you know, because in my mind, we can very clearly see that association with you can clearly see how the U.S. war in Afghanistan and Iraq and the whole surrounding region around there, and the extended conflicts and the just the massive amount of combat going on in that area led to the development of these fundamentalist Muslim groups who rose up as a direct response to the violence going on in those areas. Cryptennial, thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate that. You know that the Quran instructs to slaughter non-believers. The war is a money shuffle for the MIC and a distraction like Hunter Biden interview. Well, I don't know if the Hunter Biden interview was necessarily a distraction. I don't think Hunter is in on the distraction or anything. I don't know. I think the Democrats are trying to really center attention on one very specific plot point, if you will, and I don't buy that this particular issue would be, that particular issue would be an attempt at a distraction. But maybe you're right. Who the fuck knows? My theory is that it just happens to be going on at a time, but I think it's more because Hunter Biden wants to capitalize on the fact that he's now sober enough, I guess, to do interviews and shit. That he wants to get himself in the limelight now that his dad is too demented to really keep himself up and keep himself out in the fucking limelight and keep himself interviewing shit, Now that his dad is kind of seeping into the background, Hunter wants to step up and into the spotlight. I think that's more what that interview had to do with than anything else, but who the fuck knows ultimately? I'm not Hunter Biden, neither are you. I'm not Andrew Callahan, neither are you. Who the fuck knows? As far as the Quran instructing Muslims to slaughter non-believers, if we want to get real serious for a minute, there's a whole lot of admonitions against a whole lot of groups that suggest death as a punishment in the Bible, right? So people can choose to believe certain aspects of their religion and reject others. In fact, it's one of the most common traits of a religious person. If you've ever met a religious person, you have met a fascinating little bundle of hypocrisies. Somebody who believes what they have to in order to satisfy the ethical framework they've built in their head and rejects what they can't stomach because they know that it flies in the face of everything else they believe. PSYOP? Oh, okay. Okay, let me see here. Let me reread your message and that'll make more sense. Okay, in retrospect, I don't know what you were calling a PSYOP, actually. I tried to make sense of it, but I couldn't. I'm sorry, y'all. Are you a traitor? What do you mean? Who owns the central banks? A variety of people, some of which happen to be Jewish. I don't think it means anything. Before you ask. Man, people are way too fast and fancy-free these days with the whole Jewish question, dude. Man, people used to be subtle about that kind of thing. I gotta tell you, debating people has changed because people used to be subtle about that kind of thing. That pacifier is going to kill you? I gotta say, that is the most condescending insult towards the vape user that I've ever heard. So I gotta hand it to you because that actually kind of made me laugh. So you know what? Yeah, you know what? It really gets in the way of my fucking yoga. Yeah. As he lights an American spirit, he asks how I can smoke such shit. I said there's nothing like chain smoking GPC cigarettes. 'Cause any smokes will kill ya, but these'll make you feel like it. Can you sing the national anthem? I can try. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed through the twilight's late gleaming, whose bright stars and brimes through the perilous night o'er ramparts we hailed, was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave truth through the night that our flag was still there, Oh, say, can you see that star-spangled banner o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I think I got most of it right. No, that's the fucked up thing about me. I got criticisms about America because I'm a fucking American. That's what we do. We criticize our country. We make it better. We're like science, bro. We are the science of countries. We are the science of countries, dude. You want to see how a country is done? You look at America. I'm like, one of my criticisms of America is I don't think we've been living up to our potential over the last 20 years. We haven't done this in a long time. But America used to have a tendency, man. We would get pissed off at shit, and you know what we would do? We wouldn't fucking write letters to our politicians. We wouldn't cry about it on social media. We took to the motherfucking streets. The 1960s, the union movements of the 1970s. Hell, there were protests going on for queer liberation in the 1980s. The 90s, the Watts riots, for the Rodney King riots, massive, spread to every fucking city. The WTO protests, Occupy Wall Street, as recently as just 20 years ago, just 2 decades ago. Massive fucking movement for economic liberation in this country. Americans get up and we do shit about it. We collectively create what our country is. We form, through common consent, a nation. And it's got fucking principles that are documented in a fucking constitution that we can change with a 2/3 vote of all the states. I think that that's beautiful. I think that that's a really fucking wonderful fucking thing. I think it's a lot of potential represented. I just fucking hate the direction that some people want to take this country. And I hate the direction that some people are able to take it. And I hate the fucking death of that set of movements I'm talking about. That willingness of the American people to step out and take to the streets and make their voice known. How much do you weigh? Last time I checked, 302, down from 346 around this time last year, so doing pretty good so far. 400, about 100 pounds off, bud. I'm fat, but not quite that fat. What is an issue that you think is most critical? Oh man, this is a fucking hard one, dude. It depends on what angle you look at it from. Honestly, I think that as far as like long-term human societal planning, I think that our biggest fucking blind spot is reliance on fossil fuels. Everybody tries to tell me, oh, we're not running out of oil. Oh, they keep thinking we're going to hit peak oil, and we don't. And there's just like, we're always going to be able to get oil. I don't believe them. And I think that fucking mentality is going to carry us right into an oil shortage sometime here in the next fucking 20, 30, 40 years. And I think that when that happens, there's going to be a lot of fucking economic degradation and slowdown. I think that even countries with good social safety nets are going to kind of, flounder a little bit as they struggle to find new footing. I think it's going to be fucked up. And I think we could avert if we would start trying to switch off of fossil fuels, get rid of that system, get rid of that whole idea that we're going to power all of our fucking vehicles and all of our industrial equipment with fucking gasoline and shit. Can someone leave the stream and come back in and tell me if there's a content warning or something like that? Because I feel like I've gotten report gated at this point, and like there's now an age gate, and I just want to test it. So could somebody do that for me? Best alternative fuel? I am a big fan of biodiesel and biogas in general. Like biogas less so. Biodiesel I think is the way to go, man. You can make biodiesel more easily than you can make biogas, and it's a less energy intensive process from my understanding. There's ways it can be done like with less reliance on high technology. So I think it's a good future-proof solution if we're going to keep the concept of an internal combustion engine going. Now, that being said, I think that hybrid vehicles have demonstrated the fact that even if you're going to have an ICE engine somewhere, why do I say that? Even if you're going to have an ICE running around somewhere in that contraption, hybrid vehicles have shown that it's way more efficient to couple that to an electric motor that can take over at times where it's inefficient to have the engine revving up and down and all that shit. So I think that same kind of model could be implemented in big, heavy industrial machinery and shit. I'll sponsor a trip for you to go to any Islamic country, including Palestine. Let me see here. For a week with your flag to hold an LGBTQ support protest. Honestly, Pokeboys, if you're 100% serious, okay, if you're serious, send like a $10 super chat to prove that you even have disposable income. You know, like, that's my first requirement. And then my second requirement is, if you're 100% serious, send me a fucking, send me a message on Discord, because you know what? I'll bring this little gimbal, I'll bring this gimbal, I'll bring my phone, and I'll make a whole documentary of it. So if you're serious, hit me up. My Discord is in the description. Here, YouTube will require ID to watch non-kid vids. Oh no, dude, Riley, I hope that's not true. God, I hope that's not true. That's gonna make, oh my God, that's gonna fuck shit up so fucking bad over here. Not just over here though. That's gonna fuck shit up bad for a lot of fucking content creators, or people will just acquiesce to it. But I don't know, dude. That just seems like something. I don't know. Something tells me the American people aren't going to acquiesce to that, but maybe I could be wrong. Maybe everybody will agree to just fucking submit their goddamn ID to fucking YouTube and let YouTube have, like, their fucking driver license number and all this shit. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. I had to do that to start earning income from YouTube, so, I guess it's not completely out of the question. Truth, Google needs your ID because apparently parents can't monitor their kids online. That's fucking, I know. That's the ridiculous thing about it, Riley. Honestly. Look up wood gasification. It's probably better than diesel. There's no fucking way. Diesel is just one of those fucking, like, it's like a dream fuel. No, okay, you might be right. I haven't looked up wood gasification, so I don't know much about it. But I gotta tell you, the fact that you can make biodiesel just by pressing, there's a whole bunch of things that you can make biodiesel for just by pressing the shit. And adding a couple of chemicals to it that make it more miscible, that make it more, like, less viscous, basically. You add some, like, thinners to it that are still, like, of the right consistency or whatever. Like there's some chemistry magic you have to do to it afterwards, but, like, there's a whole bunch of shit. All you got to do is press the shit, And, I mean, like, you can, like, presses were operated by screw and by fucking human or animal force long before they were ever operated by big old hydraulic machines. A big part of my thinking, and those of you who've been watching for a long time might have picked up on this, a big part of my thinking, I think it's something I got from my dad, is that I'm always thinking about what happens if the electricity is to go out. Like, what happens if the leaders of the world get to a point where they're all so fucking pissed off at each other that they start launching nukes? What happens? Is there a way to future-proof our society against things like that? Are there technologies we can support that are better equipped to deal with a massive change in how people live than other technologies? And the conclusion I've come away with is that diesel is the best suited for that particular project. Diesel engines use fuel that can, in theory, be produced without high technology. You can produce gasoline, you can produce ethanol without any high tech as well. I mean, it's basically like brew and moonshine, just to a way higher proof. But it requires more energy. It requires a bigger industrial process to get enough to meaningfully run an engine, And I think that when it comes to, like, diesel production, I could imagine some kind of crazy hippie future where there's, like, communes that are growing their own corn for biodiesel. I don't know. Something I don't know off the top of my head is how many acres of corn it takes to create a gallon of biodiesel versus how many acres of corn it takes to create a gallon of gas. Let me see here. Poke boys. Pokey boy. I'm not seeing any previous comments from you, Pokeboy. You talk as though you said more. Let me see. Okay, sign a waiver that I'm not liable for what happens to you when you go. 100% serious. I offer dozens of times, 0 takers. Well, I'll be a taker. I gotta tell you, man, I'm way more worried about the fucking IDF than I am about the goddamn terrorists or whatever. I'm way more worried about the fucking IDF. Oh. Like, legitimately, I doubt, honestly, that we could even get into Palestine. I doubt very seriously that we could even get in, Pokeboy. Like I said, I don't even believe you until you send me some contact, like until you contact me on Discord and we talk it through, or you send like I said, send a super chat or something like that, that sort of thing indicates that you're a real person who actually might have the disposable income to fund something like that. But it's not something I'm terrified of. There's countries where I wouldn't do it because I just like Sharia law is baked into the fucking country. Like, I think you think I'm defending. Here's the thing. Let's just get past an understanding problem, which I think might be going on here, Pokeboy. You misunderstand me if you think I'm saying that all Muslims are good people or that Islam is a religion of peace or whatever bullshit like that. I have no fucking mistaken impressions about Islam as a religion. But Islam as a religion and Islam as a community are not the same fucking thing. I have met way too many Muslims who aren't fucking living up to every fucking edict in the Quran to believe that that is every Muslim. I've met way too many fucking non-fundamentalist Muslims, in other words, to believe that fundamentalism is a complete, domination of the ideology. And that's the angle, that I defend Muslims from. I think that they get a charge of fundamentalism that is unfair when you actually consider the fucking statistics. Most Muslims are not fundamentalists. Hell, most of the Muslims who live in fundamentalist countries aren't, actually fundamentalists. Every time human rights groups are able to sneak in and do a study of these people, or get their information, online fucking surveys, things like that, every time they're able to get a fucking sense of how people from these countries feel, it's always fucking pretty much divided, but there's always, a giant contingent of people that are no, I'm not really happy about the fundamentalist government, but they kind of kill people that speak out, so... Which, by the way, would be a problem of a Christian fundamentalist nation as well. For evidence, see the Crusades, the Inquisition, the multiple other pogroms, genocides, and wars initiated by the Catholic Church, just as a few examples. I think religious fundamentalism in general is a problem, and if we can agree with all these you're strong. How am I strawmanning the argument? What? Huh? What? How? Off the Catholic Church. Hey, I'm not the one who made the Catholic Church go do a bunch of fucking pogroms. I'm not the one who made the Catholic Church support the Nazis. I'm not the one who made the Catholic Church fucking facilitate the what were they called? The rat lines? The ratways or whatever? I didn't make the Catholic Church do all that shit. Hey, Thomas Miller, if you're bored to tears, I got a fucking bit of advice for you. Put your little monkey finger on the bottom of your screen, press, and then pull upwards. Get lost, bitch. The church didn't support the Nazis. Oftentimes fathers were executed. So the Catholic Church didn't fucking offer. Okay, this is just historical revisionism in my opinion, because I've definitely heard about the Catholic Church participating in the movement of Nazi leaders and war criminals out of Germany and into Argentina. I've definitely heard about the Catholic Church aiding and abetting the Nazi regime in a number of ways. Pretty much the only fathers I ever heard of being executed were people who did speak out against the Nazi regime. because individual priests within the Catholic Church have always been apt to go against church philosophy. Just look at Pope Francis. The man pretty much redefined what it meant to be a Catholic within one fucking papacy. Within one papacy, he redefined what it meant to be a Catholic. And I admire him for that, but that's an example of Catholicism being a religion that is ultimately beholden to its high priests. Damn, someone sent $100 if you'd be getting paid. No, I really do appreciate that. That was really kind of that person, and they asked a really good question. They said I'm cracked, but whatever, Belder. It's fine. I can be cracked. I'm cool with that. I do think that the Hamas problem was caused by the U.S. and Israel, though. I don't think, because religious fundamentalism of the violent kind that is normalized there now was not a fucking feature of at the time when Israel was established, and it didn't become a feature of that area until the conflict had been going on for about 20 years. It grew to be a problem specifically and literally because of the growth of Israel. Good, bad, right, or wrong, that is what this religious fundamentalism rose up around, and a lot of it is based on the fucking horrible shit that Israel was engaging in. And by the way, there's this narrative, right? There's this narrative that Israel has become this really nightmarish place. No. Israel was founded by a bunch of fucking hateful organizations. You ever heard of Lehi? Or Lehi? I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know how it's pronounced, but you ever heard of Lehi or whatever it is? The terrorist organization that was instrumental to shaping the formation of Israel that got absorbed into the IDF? Yeah, go look up Lehi. Go look up Lehi. Can someone check? Can someone check and see if I'm age gated? Because this is bullshit. This is bull honking shit. I feel like I might have missed a super chat. Let me go through my super chats to make sure I responded to all of them. Yep. Okay, yeah, I did. Cool. No age gate on my end. No, thank you, Beldor. That was a really good question. Not just like the super chat obviously is deeply appreciated, but the question more than anything helped us engage in like what has now been like a 20-minute long conversation about Israel. So hell yeah. You know, we might have different opinions on the matter, but your question and disagreement with me led to a more interesting conversation, and I'm always thankful for that kind of contribution. If I was president, I would ban weed and pork tomorrow. Oh, pickle. You would try to put me in a pickle, wouldn't you? You're aptly named, my friend. Well, luckily, you'll probably never be anything even close to president, so... If I was president tomorrow, I'd ban the username pickle. Nobody's allowed to be called that anymore. Nobody will be called that. None of my detractors will have the privilege of sharing their name. They can stay named that, but nobody else. No, you know what? They have to change it too. I know about name changes. It's been something. I've studied it for a long time, folks. Long time. I repeat do. Obama ran on great shit, got in office, and was another corporatist president. Yeah, that's the fucking problem with Obama, right? Everybody fucking props up Obama like he was God's gift to liberals. But the truth of it is, Obama might have been one of the worst fucking presidents if you're a liberal if you're a liberal or leftist of any stripe that cares about actually getting meaningful progressive policy passed. Obama was a fucking wet diaper. Worse than a wet fart. A wet fart goes away after a while, and its effects are negligible. It was like a wet diaper on a school trip where you don't have any more diapers. Literally. Oh. Thanks for Leahy. I've never heard of that. Well, it's something to consider, right? And I hope I didn't sound too abrasive when I'm responding, right? But I try to give people myself as genuine as I can, right? But yeah, Lehi is this, like I said, LEHI. It's this terrorist organization that was fundamental to the building and like land takeover kind of operations of the founding of Israel. And it was a terrorist organization. It was an explicitly anti-Arabic and anti-Palestinian terrorist organization. Now, I mean, it was mostly that in furtherance of being pro-Israel, right? But that was an explicit part of its ideology. In the same way, Hamas specifically calls out Jews, which I think they're wrong to do. I'm not pro-Hamas. I'm pro-Palestine, okay? I'm pro the Palestinian people. I'm pro-Palestinian culture. I'm pro the fucking continuation of those things without being bombed and fucking shelled to death. I'm not pro-Hamas. I know what Hamas is. I know what fundamentalist Islam is. I know how damaging it is on the world stage when allowed to come to power. I get that. But I'm also not a big fan of American imperialism. And I'm not a big fan of these fucking giant, endless, forever wars that just go on forever. And that's what the Israel conflict has been. Since World War II, we have been managing this conflict. Since World War II, since roughly the late 40s, we have been managing this fucking conflict, and it's endless, endless, endless. And every bit of fucking trouble we've had in the Middle East has come explicitly from Israel fucking with its neighbors, and from us wanting to take advantage of the situation. Maybe sometimes Israel fucked with its neighbors because of what we wanted them to do, because we wanted Israel, because we wanted, we wanted Iraqi oil, or we wanted Lebanese oil, or whatever the case might be. But the point still remains. They do our dirty work, and when things get too hot, we come and rescue them, engage in a big old conflict of our own, and when we've extracted what we need, we leave. Ulysses S. Grant prevented a dictatorship in the United States with his secretary, Barr Gold conspiracy. The robber barons were going to corner the gold market and have the majority of the gold in the U.S. Oh, dude, that's fucking amazing. And that's just an example of presidential power. It used to be kind of a check on the most powerful people in the country, right? It used to be a check on capitalism. Now it works hand in hand with capitalism, and that's one of the really call America a fascist country. I think one of the reasons you can fairly call us a fascist country is we have now consolidated power, right? We've consolidated power massively in the hands of the wealthy, and we have removed the power of the presidency from being anything other than an enactor of their interests, basically. Why just weed? Like, weed ain't nothing dangerous. Ban cigarettes and heavy liquor, then ban weed, because y'all need to ban the killers first, since y'all care so much about weed. I tend to agree, but I'm a big fucking libertarian. Not in general, like, I don't hold to every fucking belief of the Libertarian Party or whatever. But a lot of my anarchist bent comes from a strong libertarian sense. I would really rather people be able to smoke, drink, and inhale and exhale whatever the fuck they want. People want to get drunk? Let them. People want to get high on weed? Let them. People want to get high on coke? Let them. Are you going to go out and start doing cocaine because it became legal? No. Weed is too freely distributed and hurts the people around you? It's just objectively false. Weed hurts the families of some people who use it, but that's true of every drug. It's true of literally every drug. It's true of tobacco and alcohol way more than it is true of weed, in fact. You see, I've had an alcoholic in my close family. I know what it's like to have to pick somebody up off the floor, carry them to bed, and make sure that you lay them on their side so that they don't choke on their own vomit if they should throw up. I know what it means to try to get someone to go to bed and chill out before they, before they get sick, and then have them just fall fucking flat on their fucking ass trying to get out of the chair. I have had so fucking much inconvenience in my life on the back of alcoholism. So for you to sit there and tell me that weed does damage to the people around you, I got news for you. I've been a stoner for about 5 years. Not once has anyone in my family ever had to rescue me from that. But in those same 5 years, I've gotten super fucking drunk, like really like crazy drunk, like 5 times. And I would say out of those 5 times, 3 times I had to be helped through that situation by a family member who loves and cares about me. It's one of the reasons I don't drink anymore. I mean, I do, but I like very occasionally, I've become responsible about it because I recognize the danger. Weed bears no such danger, at least not in my life. Now, you may be a person who can't handle weed. Not everybody is. Portland essentially legalized almost all drugs. Look at how that's going for them. I really haven't stayed updated on Portland's fucking measures, but I will tell you this much. I watched a Michael Moore documentary called Where to Invade Next. And it's all about Michael Moore going to these different countries and trying to get their good ideas and import them into the United States. And he talks to Portugal. This was a few years after Portugal began their policy of treating drugs not as a criminal issue, but as a medical issue, universally. He talked to, I don't remember what the dude's actual position was, but he was like a high-level official involved in the drug administration program or whatever that oversees rehabs and recovery efforts and things like that. And one of the things he said that person said in that documentary is that because Michael Moore did his customary, I'm going to steal this idea and bring it to the United States. And the dude was like, well, you can't just bring this idea. You've got to steal some other ideas while you're here too. And Michael was like, oh, like what? And the dude was like universal healthcare. And therein lies the key. That's the biggest one. If you start treating drugs, if you start treating drugs as a medical problem, but you don't have an adept medical system capable of treating all the patients without, relying on their ability to pay that bill at some point, as long as that's what your medical system is predicated upon, as long as it's predicated upon profit, as long as it's not universal, you've got a massive fucking obstacle in the way of you in your area of administration, whether that's a city or a state or whatever it happens to be. You've got a huge obstacle in your way between you and the positive benefits of a legalization atmosphere, right? That's just wrong, Pickle. The reason people can't buy a car or a house, and by the way, a lot of people buy cars. It's one of the biggest things that people stupidly spend their money on. There are people buying new cars every fucking year. That's how the auto industry remains operating. There are fucking hundreds of thousands of people buying used cars every year. That's what keeps the used market operating. So I don't know where you're getting that idea. As far as housing goes, the reason why nobody can buy a house anymore is because housing is mostly owned and sold by these massive fucking conglomerates that are treating them as investment properties. And so they actually benefit from not having them rented out or something like that. It's easier to transfer ownership. It's easier to buy and sell them. It's worth more if it's a potential, thing. If it's like, you could either get rent or you could sell this house, and either way, it's set up perfect and it's being maintained. So a lot of America's houses right now are just being held by big banks and big fucking hedge funds and shit like that as investment vehicles. That's a big problem. A lot of houses right now are owned by landlords, whether it's through apps like Airbnb or just traditional landlords who are literally they own like 50, 60, 70, 80 houses across America, and they're just charging out the ass for a house that, ultimately is not worth, like their mortgage is not what the people are paying in rent. The mortgage is like a half of that, maybe a third of it. And the maintenance cost has been distributed down to so fucking low because it's so coordinated amongst all this person's properties that they're effectively paying maybe another like eighth of that rent towards maintenance costs every month collectively. It's a massive fucking racket. A massive fucking racket. Free Palestine? Hell yeah. Free Palestine. Zoning regulations and NIMBYs that want to keep the price of their houses abnormally sky high. My boomer neighbor said, I hope BlackRock gets a bailout so they can buy off this thing. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. But that's how some people think. That's how some people think. That person, they don't want to sell at any kind of disadvantage, and I get that instinct. But man, a motherfucker that's got it all figured out in life, but hasn't figured out how to take one for the team. Wants BlackRock, one of the most disgusting and fucking, like, tentacle-y fucking octopus organizations that there is, buying up this person's house to turn it into an investment vehicle. See, Love856Y, the thing about you is you assume a whole lot about me because I make advocacy for people who aren't in my position. Because I make points and do advocacy for people that are poorer than I am or have less access than I do or whatever the fuck. You assume that means that I must be one of those people. I got news for you. The land I live on has been owned by my family since the fucking mid-40s. Since the fucking mid-40s. And once my parents kick the bucket, it will be mine. And once I kick the bucket, it'll be my son's. The same way it passed from my great-grandfather to my grandma to my dad. And now my dad grows nothing but gray hairs is slowly beginning to be passed to me, So don't assume that merely because I make points and do advocacy for people that can't afford to buy a house, don't assume that that means I don't have my own pad, bro. Don't assume that that means that I have no idea what home ownership is like. We should ban all lobbyists from doing business on behalf of foreign interests in America. We should ban lobbying in America in general. Corporate interests should not be able to use money and influence to change politics in America. If American fucking private interests and moneyed interests want to change policy in America, they should have to do it the same way any of us do, by making their points. And something tells me that their PR people are not going to be nearly as skilled at dodging American complaints as American politicians are. Something tells me that their image is going to break a lot faster once they have to start appealing for the same fucking thing that politicians have to appeal for. Politicians can't lobby themselves, so politicians have to appeal for the people. Power to govern is determined by consent of the governed. This is real basic shit. This is like Thomas Paine shit. This is real basic. Can you believe your Riley Weston is going on a power trip banning anyone she does not see fit as they don't share her opinion? Oh boy. Somebody's getting big mad. Let's just go through some of the things that Riley is hidden. Alton G, why are you in here spamming Jesus is king? You know better. Come on now. You've been a member of the community for how long? Why is Alton acting so weird? I'm demonic now? Alton G, you've always been so cool. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything Riley's hidden that makes me question their judgment. Not gonna lie. Like, one of them is, you're nasty. Stop acting like a girl and be a man. The society is fucked because of cucks like you. You're telling me that was a quality comment that I should have just left up? You're telling me that's a quality comment that I should admonish Riley Weston for banning the fuck up out of here? Like the stupid cocksucker that person was? No, I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm pretty happy with the way my mods have been doing the chat tonight. Thank you. Has Alton been hacked? I don't know. Maybe one of Alton's family members has their phone or something. I don't know. Maybe Alton got dementia. Who knows? I hate to joke like that, but you know. So you agree that healthcare costs shouldn't be burdened on all taxpayers? What? No, I think the taxpayer funding should cover healthcare costs. Where did you get the idea that I'm not for universal healthcare? I think it's perfectly fucking fine for taxpayers to bear the fucking cost of healthcare, considering they already do bear the cost of healthcare. Whether you're paying it in the form of a tax or in the form of a fucking health insurance bill, you're paying for it. Nobody gets it for free. So why are you acting like there's some option that we can take whereby you're not paying for it anymore? You just think you're just one of these people that is triggered by the language taxpayer, huh? No. I think you're actually one of those people that's trying to trigger other people with the usage of the word taxpayer. But, you know, to me, it doesn't make much of a difference whether you're paying $200 in taxes or $200 in the form of a bill. You're paying it either way, so what is the distinction? In fact, I think it's better when you're paying $200 in taxes versus $200 in the form of a bill, because at least when you're paying the taxes, that's publicly accountable. If the politician's responsible for fucking that up, fuck it up. Like, if the politician's responsible for fucking that up come up for an election while you're living there, you can go down and vote. You can be part of the movement that helps get them out of office. You can start a protest movement in your little town that helps illustrate why their policies have hurt things in your town or in your community or whatever, right? There's like options there. Whereas if you're like paying $200, and that's the fucking sad thing about it, is like we're using this one-to-one comparison, but the fact of it is, let's just be real about something. In systems where you pay, in systems that have universal healthcare, they normally do have a slightly higher overall average income tax rate than in America, but it's way overblown how much of a difference there is. The main differences are for high earners. Yeah, high earners pay way more in other countries, in most other countries at least. But in like most other countries too, the average earner doesn't pay that much more than the Americans do, but the average earner gets way more for what they're paying in those countries. See, here in America, we still end up paying a pretty fucking high amount out of our income every fucking 2 weeks or every month whenever you're getting your paycheck. Big chunk of that's coming out in taxes, and if you're working class, very little of that usually is coming back to you. You might get a fucking refund if you make very, very little, honestly. It's not unusual for someone to get a refund, right? But if you're like what's the word I'm looking for? It feels weird to call it middle class anymore, because like even people in this position are always still struggling with bills, still struggling with high rents, things like that. But if you're like functionally like working middle class, you've got a little more access. You've got more more access to resources than someone with less, and you've got very little coming back to you in the form of taxes, right? But you're paying a pretty decent chunk of your income every pay period towards those taxes, and you don't like what services do you get out of that? You get roads. Well, no, that's actually paid out of the gas tax, so no, you don't get roads with that even. You get well, let's see, you get the military, which I think makes up like a 60% of an income tax payment to the government every year. You know, something like 60% of it ends up getting diverted to the military. You get police. You get some kind of like, you get some basic fire and EMS kind of stuff. Although a lot of those will still charge you for rescuing you, or they might have like a specific service area and have to charge you outside of that. You get administration, right? So your income tax helps to pay for administration costs. But when you really actually look down the list of the things that Americans get in return for their taxes, it's just not a whole fucking lot. The food stamps program, I guess, which is woefully underfunded. We misspend so much of our fucking tax revenue, and we don't go after high earners for tax revenue. We let them fucking have a million different loopholes. Rich people will tell you all the time, we don't pay taxes, we pay accountants. Literally, it's like a little open secret that rich people ain't paying motherfucking taxes. They're paying a team of fucking accountants and money lawyers to make sure that they are never fucking accountable for any more tax than they possibly have to be. They're getting them to where they're fucking paying a couple grand out of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they made that year into the tax system. And it's completely illegal because there's a million loopholes in the fucking system that are meant to cushion wealthy people and the corporations they own and control from the effects of living in a fucking country where the income of all is needed, where there's like some contribution needed from everybody to assure that the common good is assured. To ensure that the common good is assured. Well, I don't have to scroll up to what you said. I can just pull up your thing and pull up channel activity. Every letter in LGBT is punishable by death in every Islamic country. I don't think that's actually true. Pretty sure there are some fucking countries that have like, maybe there are no, like, obviously there are no countries that have like Sharia law and fucking like fundamentalist Muslim control, but that's not every Muslim country. There are plenty of countries with like high Muslim populations or majority Muslim governments that aren't like fundamentalist countries. Strawmanning the argument. I never did get an answer on that. Christians are the most persecuted group people on the planet. That's just objectively false. That's just like ridiculously false. Where the fuck are you getting those numbers? What the fuck is that based on? Christian denominations historically fought each other more than any separate religion. Catholics went to war with Protestants and vice versa. Yeah, they also fought a whole bunch of other motherfuckers. That's the thing I don't get about Christians, man. It seems like you guys want to run away from your past. Don't run away from it, accept it. Do you see churches or states here sanctioning executions for being Muslim or homosexuals? No, but I think that that's largely a function of America being a pretty cool country, which has enshrined human rights into its constitution to a large degree. But we have had problems with lynchings and things like that, and when we have had those problems, they have had a religious bent to them quite often. And there have been plenty of mass shooters against like queer nightclubs and things like that here in America who have claimed like partly religious inspiration for their crimes. So I think you could argue that that argument doesn't really hold a whole lot of water. But yeah, no, I don't see any churches like outright advocating for like the stoning of homosexuals or anything. But once again, I think that's more a function of the fact that America is a place where we kind of aren't too tolerant of that kind of thing, you know? Generally tends to be a turnoff to Americans. Yeah. Something we agree on. Obama did so much damage to our country as a whole. I mean, I don't know if we would agree on the reasons, though, Pokey. Palestinians voted in Hamas to be their governmental leaders and lawmakers. Yeah, and I'm sure that vote wasn't influenced by any other foreign powers. I'm sure there was no fucking fuckery to that at all. I'm sure that there's no fucking possible way that anybody's consent could have been manufactured or that any kind of other like outside or internal entity could have been trying to foist a certain happening, a certain series of events. I'm sure none of that happened, right? It all just happened peacefully, right? It was all good. Capitalism is the best economic system in world history. That's just ridiculous. Portland essentially legalized almost all drugs. I already responded to that. No one gives a shit about weed. It's everything else. That's just objectively false. There are definitely still some people that are like adamantly against weed. There are a few of them, I grant you, in most of America, but Texas remains a holdout. Kansas remains a holdout. Pretty sure Iowa maybe remains a holdout. I don't see the argument you made against Michael Moore. I got timed out for making an unsaleable argument against Michael Moore saying Cuba has better healthcare and a better economy. They do. They objectively do. So you agree that healthcare costs shouldn't be burdened on taxpayers? Never said that. Why? The top 1% of earners account for over 50% of all taxes paid. Is that true? Can someone with a fucking wrench verify that? You get ridiculous salaries for politicians? Well, there we can agree, you know? There we can agree. I read through a shit ton of that person's comments, and now I bet they're not even here anymore. I read through a shit ton of that person's comments, and now I bet you they're not even here anymore. By the way, make sure you guys hit that like button if you haven't already. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send the stream out to even more people, which increases the quality of your viewing pleasure by a number of magnitudes every single time you do it, because you get more people in the chat, you freshen up the blood in here, you know, it's good. Oh, there's Pokey Boys. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, whatever comment you made about Michael Moore, I didn't see because, like, you got timed out or whatever, and I'm not going to go back and sort through every fucking timed out comment for the last half an hour to find which one it was. You can try and repeat it, and, like, nobody time out Pokey Boy, okay? Let him repeat his silly little joke or whatever it was, okay? Well, it'll be fine. It's fine. We'll be fine, okay? We'll all survive. Something tells me we'll get through it. Phoebe's reading chat and scrolled up far. We are moving on. No, Riley. What are we moving on from? Where are we moving on to? What is going on in my fucking chat? The person I'm responding to is that dude Pokeboys who is like offering to fly me out to Palestine to organize a pro-LGBT protest, which I think would be fun as fuck. Like, if you're talking about an all expenses paid thing, dude, I've literally never gotten out of the country. I would fucking, I would die for the opportunity. So, I'm not afraid of it. I'm more afraid of the fucking IDF than I am anything. something tells me Hamas is probably not going to try and, like, you know, just, like, erase Western journalists from existence, like, merely for being in Palestine and holding a protest there, you know? But also, I have to admit, it does seem kind of fucked up to go there and do anything other than volunteer work. So, here's the thing. I would do this, Pokeboy, but you would also have to finance me setting up a soup kitchen in Palestine. I can't just do, like, a queer protest, okay? Because that is just insensitive as fuck. You're talking about a group of people who've been fucked with militarily for the last 2 years. I think it's kind of insensitive to go there and draw attention to any other fucking problem other than that. Unless you are servicing that conflict and doing so under the flag of some other organization. So, like, you have to package them together, I think. And I'm not even talking about in order for it to go well in Palestine. I don't think Hamas is going to kill me because they think it's insensitive, you know? That was weird. But I do think that I would be mocked by the international community, and rightly so, if that's all I did, you know? It's exactly what they'll do. So why haven't they killed any other Western journalists then? Why is the IDF toll of Western journalists killed so much higher than the Hamas toll of Western journalists killed? You're not going to dispute that little statistic, are you? Okay, I'm not getting rid of Riley. I'm not getting rid of Pickle. What is going on here? What is, like, going on? Beam, help chat get back on track. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay. I think, okay, here's the topic. I'm establishing a topic, and then any fucking discussion that isn't related to this topic after this point, I want it banned and out of here. Okay? I'm making this very clear. So the topic right now is the situation in Gaza, Palestine in general, and in Israel, and adjacent topics to that. Israel's geopolitical relationships with its neighbors, the United States' relationship with Israel. So that's what we're talking about. Topics adjacent to that are allowed. Responses to that topic are allowed. The subtopic that we're at right now is the idea of me doing this, like, pro-LGBT protest in Palestine, which I think would go over pretty well if I was doing it as, like, a combined issues protest. I think it would go over great if I did it as a combined issues protest. I don't know how it would go over if I just tried to organize it as, like, a solely LGBTQ rights protest. Like, who are you going to appeal to for those rights? Palestine effectively has no government right now. People say, oh, they voted in Hamas. Hamas is not organized enough to take control of that country. Hamas is not organized enough to meaningfully have influence over that country. So it's just like, what are we talking about here? Who the fuck would I be appealing to, right? But if I did something like, like, I don't know, I would have to think of the slogan or something. Like I would have to think of the catchy little subtitle. I would have to think of marketing material for this, obviously. But I think if I did something that basically demonstrates, like here we go, queers for Palestine. Queers for Palestine. There you go. Let me do a Queers for Palestine soup kitchen, and you got your deal, Pokey Boys. I'll do it. I'll come home safe. I'll make a documentary about the whole process. I'll make $1 million, and I'll shake your hand at the end of all of it. We can go out for drinks. You have finally found the person who says yes fearlessly. I don't care, Pokey Boys. I don't care. I don't care. I'm fine with it. Queers for Palestine is a crazy statement. Well, you're the one who offered to fly me out and support this crazy fucking journey. Don't tell me that you've got just enough money to fly me out to fucking Palestine, but not enough money to do all this other shit. I know how disposable income works, my friend. So frankly, I'm sick and tired of the talk. I'm ready for the fucking Discord. I'm ready for you to hit me up on Discord and set about organizing this. Because I'm going to have to I'm gonna have to let my family know. I'm gonna have to set up childcare for the week I'm gone, or for the 2 weeks I'm gone, or whatever. Have to write a last will and testament just in case, the IDF bombs whatever town square I'm sitting in. Life insurance. I should probably make it a condition of Pokeboy that he takes out a life insurance policy for me, but one of his conditions was that I sign a waiver discounting him of any any liability, which I'm fine with, as long as he'll sign a contract that guarantees access to this, to the resources needed to do what I want to do. Because I think if I do what I want to do, I think it would go over. I think it would go over spectacularly. I think my main danger would be the IDF. I think I stand a way greater chance of taking an IDF bullet than I do of taking a fucking Hamas bullet, frankly. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not so scared of Muslims that I'm not willing to try. Besides, if I dress up in a complete fucking, aren't women in Palestine, don't they traditionally wear, head coverings or something? Do they wear the full thing? I can't remember what the different ones are called. I get them mixed up. I think the niqab is the one that is full coverage, and the hijab is the one that's partial. I don't remember. I don't pretend to remember. You think people haven't tried going over there to help? Most of the people who've tried going over there to help have been intercepted by the IDF, actually. Yeah, you'd have to dress up like Darth Vader or be stoned. Fine by me. When in Rome, If that's how all the other women are dressed, which I'll tell you, that's not usually how I see them. In pictures of refugees from Gaza, I'm not seeing a bunch of women in full fucking hijab or whatever it's called. I'm seeing a bunch of women in the partial head covering thing. It looks like they could maybe do the, wraparound scarf thing if they needed to. But it almost seems like maybe a thing that's reserved for when certain religious leaders are around, or maybe when Hamas leadership is around or something like that. But when they get pictures of these folks just out and about, they're usually not wearing a full headdress and a fucking body covering and shit. Who was intercepted? The crew of the Mayan Marmara, I think it was called. There was a number of aid ships. Didn't Greta Thunberg's fucking aid ship get intercepted by the IDF? There have been a number of aid ships that have attempted to sail towards Palestine and offer aid and offload aid there at the beaches, and all of them have been intercepted unless they've come from the United States. You got deported? Yeah, not surprising. It's Sharia law. You can't have Sharia law if you don't have law. There are no courts in Palestine anymore. It's a refugee camp, bro. My phone died. I'm a retard. Sorry about that, y'all. We back. Guess who's back? Back again. Phoebe's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Back again. Are you free? Yeah, you're free. Yay, twin, we are back in business like Happy Gilmore too. Yep. Welcome back, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button. Hi, do. Well, in the merry month of May, I almost started walking, left my home or two, and nearly broken hearted, saluted Father dear. Yes, we darling mother, drink a pint of beer. The grief and tears are smothered enough to eat the corn, even I was born. Could have stopped like going to banish ghosts and goblins. When your pair of roads rattling over the bogs, scat frightening all the dogs on the rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cut the head and turn her down the rocky road all the way to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to learn that whole song, dude. Ooh, Riley sent a super chat and I missed it. Proposed rule number 5, no side convos in chat. This goes for mods as well. Hellos are okay, warnings okay, side convos, muddy topics, and are hard to moderate. This has been an object of contention on the channel, Riley. And I'll tell you why it's been an object of contention, because I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, I actually think allowing side conversations encourages like slightly higher viewership, and I think it encourages more audience interaction and perhaps even more audience loyalty to the content. I don't mean loyalty to me as a personality. I literally mean loyalty to me as a content creator, as someone who regularly watches. I'm not implying any sort of positive relationship there. I'm just implying like they reliably come back, partly because they find people to argue with in chat. And part of my thinking is that that's good for SEO and good for the algorithm and good for keeping people engaged. Part of me feels like it's a little bit cheating to do it, but on the other hand, everybody else is doing what they can to get in where they fit in, so why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? But on the other hand, it does muddy topics. Legitimately, there's a reason why Paul has side conversations banned from his chat. And there's a reason why I've always followed that rule in there, and why, well, actually, there was a time, honestly, when Jason was still a part of the chat, it took me a while to figure out to just not argue with Jason, Because me and Jason would keep arguing long after Paul started to move on to another topic, and he would have to admonish us both. But I stopped before he did. I want it to be known. My thing is, Palestine might have Sharia law, in theory, but how well can that be enforced when we see the state of Palestine? You can just look up pictures of Palestine and see how people are living there. How well can that system of ethics or whatever the fuck be applied in a country where so much is destroyed, in a country where so much is broken? How much of that shit can actually fucking apply? How much of that shit can actually be made meaningful? Like, yeah, it might be banned in theory to be a woman without a fucking headdress over there. But I bet you it fucking depends heavily on where exactly you're caught doing it and in front of whom. Also, will you reiterate rule 4 for chat? Yeah, because here's the thing. Riley doesn't ban, as far as I've seen, Riley doesn't ban anybody that's just asking questions. Riley bans people that are just being like completely rude and hateful and derisive because they're not following the 3 basic rules, right? Readable, original, and interesting, right? It's kind of like reading, writing, arithmetic, you know? Those are my 3 R's. Original, readable, and interesting. And are interesting, you know? But no, seriously. That's who gets banned out of here. Just disagreeing with me does not get you banned out of here. Misinformation, like egregious misinformation, occasionally gets someone banned out of here. But even a lot of that shit, I understand people have different notions about reality. People have different notions about what went on. The narrative about a fact changes depending on who tells it and what the spin is and what the intention behind the story is. I get that, you know? Things are different, right? For every person that comments on a situation. But we in general don't have a very ban-happy presence here. But if you're just a moron that's talking shit, you're probably going to get banned. What am I hearing? I don't know what I'm hearing. Anyway. But, okay. So, that leads to rule number 4, which is don't be questioning the mods and shit. Like if they're arguing for a point, you're allowed to argue back. But don't be questioning their fucking ethics as a mod or anything, because them as a mod and them as a personality are 2 different things, right? So, like, argue with them if you want to. If they're making an argument, you can argue back, but your argument should not be, part of your argument should not be, you should never wrench because you probably just banning everybody that fucking disagrees with you or whatever, because that is just toxic to the conversation. Let people stand on their own merits. I don't mod people up that are constantly banning people just for disagreeing with me or disagreeing with them. Okay? So now that that's established, let's have a fucking conversation. I think I broke that like 4 times. Well, Cappy, you're chill. You're fine. You're chill, fucking Cappy. You've been around so long, and we all recognize you from Paul's chat and whatever, you know? You're fine. Wait, I missed the rules? It's readable, original, and interesting. As long as somebody is readable, original, or interesting, they can stay. Like, you know, and originality means don't be fucking endlessly reciting a fucking stupid chat meme if you can't make it compelling, you know? Like, whatever. Some issues are just not going to seem original just because, like, whatever. Somebody who just asks opinions on IP, somebody like that can stay because it's at least interesting and readable, even if it's not exactly original, right? Because I've talked about it before. Somebody like that can stay. Whereas somebody who just says something like, fuck Palestine, that person stands a pretty good chance of either getting banned, getting more, getting dunked on and shit on by. Say good words and you can be in chatting. Yes, exactly. All right, real shit. Would you rather have 2 right legs and normal arms or 2 left arms and normal legs? 2 left arms, 100%. 2 left arms. Wait, does that mean I don't have a right arm, or do I now have 3 arms? Because if I now have 3 arms, it's an easy answer. Easy answer. As long as I get to retain my right arm and my left arm and everything, I just get an extra. That's fucking great. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I could wield 3 guns at once. Think about that. I could be the only marksperson on the face of the planet that can aim at 2 different targets at once. No, dude, that's a fucking lame-ass deal then. If I lose my right arm, that's bullshit. That's some bullshit. If I get to retain the right arm, well, give me an extra arm on my left side then. I don't want the extra fucking leg. That's just extra meat to haul around. But the fucking arm, I can make use of that. What flavor is your Nick? This is hard to read. That's what flavor it is. Cato Bar Vintage Edition Colombian Peppermint Coffee. It was purchased at a discount from one of those, we call them dent can stores down here. It's basically stores that get like merchandise that's been discounted from store shelves or whatever. Two legs and 2 arms no matter what. No, that's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit. Okay, Pickle, let me ask you this. If you could have any modification in the world to your body, and I mean like literally, you want wings, you can have it. You want a new spine, you can have it. You get the opportunity, like an alien abducts you, right? And they take you into their special lab and they're like, we come in peace. We just want to offer you the first round of our new technology. We're going to start marketing it here on the planet, but we need to test it on a human being first. And so you've been chosen as part of that study. Are you down for that? And you're like, yeah, okay, cool. I say, okay, you've got any modification you want, basically, you're probably something we haven't thought of. So hit us with it, and we're going to replace that or body. What are you getting, Pickle? I want new tibias and ankles. That's very specific. That tells me you deal with a lot of pain in your legs. That's sad. And I relate to that, so. Me too, bud. Me too. No, new legs would be like a secondary consideration, I think, of mine. My thing would be, I want wings that can fold up when I'm not using them into a smaller form factor or something like that, or that I can detach maybe when I'm not using them. I want wings because in my opinion, that kind of fixes a lot of the problem. Because like I could probably just fly around to different things I need to do at that point, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about getting in and out of a car. Wouldn't have to worry about walking up a hill and just fly to the top, you know. To lift a human, how big would those wings need to be? I've actually read the science on this, Matt Blank, because I have been fascinated with human-powered flight and single human flight for a really, really, really long time. So it's estimated that with the right materials, if you were going to take the wingspan of birds as an example, a human being would need to have a wingspan of roughly 32 feet in order to lift them, assuming they weighed around 250 pounds, I think it was, something like that. And that's assuming also that a big chunk of that is muscles to move those wings, just like in birds. Human beings are really not set up to power our own wings. That's why I'm saying this would be some kind of future high-tech alien technology kind of thing, where they figured out some kind of micro-reactor technology that allows them to capture a tremendous amount of energy in a really small space, and some kind of weird alien, you know, traction motor that is able to really quickly flap these wings and manipulate the little parts on them and everything. I'm assuming they've got some kind of really lightweight but incredibly strong technology that is even better than titanium or any of those other metals that we've used for that. Like, there's a bunch of assumptions that come with the idea of a little set of wings that a human being can use to fly around places, especially if you're actually talking about using wings, like as like the motive force as well as the airfoils, because it's not, like, honestly, it's not that difficult to come up with a set of wings that can keep a human being in the air if all you're doing is using those wings as airfoils. If you've got some other kind of form of propulsion, And that's what jetpacks do. Jetpacks have these little sets of wings that help give them like directional control and shit, and then the actual fucking motors that them are jet motors. I like how we can't fly because we get stronger legs, which is way better than arms in my opinion. Hate me for that. Hate it from my perspective. Would love to take flight, you know. I'm one of those people that I'm pretty sure I would be terrified of flight the first time I ever actually had to fly somewhere. But I think I wouldn't be scared of flight if I was the person flying the plane. Even though I've never flown a plane, and I know that's insane, and I know that's crazy, it's a complex of mine. When I think about flying from the standpoint of being in a tin can somebody else is controlling through the fucking air with 4 high-powered jet turbine engines and shit, pleasant thoughts are not what drift through my head. But when I imagine myself at the front of that bitch, suddenly I feel calm. And like, yeah, okay, this would be fine. Because I can see what the fuck is going on. And I know for a fact that the pilot is awake and not drunk because I am the pilot. So when I imagine myself in that position, I'm fine with it. But whenever I imagine myself in any other position in a plane, I'm just like, ah! So I don't think flying is for me, man. I think it's probably bad, you know? But I do want to fly personally. I want to fly. I just don't want to be liable for other people's fuck-ups 30,000 people in the... or 30,000 feet in the air. Even a vulture is too big to fly for long. They get picked up by the wind and glide. They think the same as how pterodactyls did it, jumped from a high place and glided. If you could not fly, would you be happy to glide? Yes. Well, okay. I would be happy to accept some kind of alternative option if that's what you're asking, Matt Blank. Like, if I can get up onto the air and on my own, because that's the thing. I don't know if you've ever seen like a turkey vulture or a buzzard take off, but I live in a pretty rural, so it's about once or twice a year. The train will kill something close enough to the farm where some buzzards will land on the tracks, and every so often I actually catch sight of them, and they're beautiful animals, and they can't take off as well when they're laden if they're trying to move their food source or something like that. But usually they're content to just fly off and go find the current and take back off and then land when the coast is clear again. They aren't too known for moving their food, but they have an interesting way of taking off. If they don't have a slope that they can glide off of or something like that, they will, you'll see them like crouch down, and they've done like slow motion footage of it that you can look up here on YouTube and watch it. It's so cool. They will jump down and use, it's like watching a grasshopper jump. They use the springiness of their fucking back connection of their foot, they're like their ankle basically, and fucking leap up super high in the air. While they're leaping up at just the exact right time, they're moving their wings out in a way that's aerodynamically advantageous. And then by the time they get their feathers splayed out, they're at the arc of the, the arc of the jump. And then they do a hard downbeat and very quickly repeat that process. Hard downbeat, very quickly repeat that process. Hard downbeat. And it really is like crazy to watch them take off. But whereas like a small bird, like a songbird or something like that, will just take off like right in front of you. It looks like hardly no effort at all. And they oftentimes have a way shorter and a way less, like a way lower amount of effort that they go into with their jump. But these birds have to take full advantage of that, right? And that to me is just fascinating and beautiful to watch. But it is, I don't remember what the fuck we were talking about, Matt, but yeah. I subbed. I'm sure we'll disagree on 99% of opinions, but I can't tell you at least but I can tell you at least love our country for what it is and appreciate the privilege of being born an American. Well, yeah, I might have criticisms of this fucking country, but but that doesn't stop me from recognizing the benefits where they exist, right? Just because I think America is fucked up with the way we do our healthcare, for example, doesn't mean I can't recognize that we're pretty fucking good about our speech record, you know? Just because I can recognize that our country has a pretty fucked up pretty fucked up history of forced labor, doesn't mean I can't recognize the fact that we've also had a pretty fucking amazing history of unions rising up and fighting valiantly and retaining their hold despite companies trying to push them off, you know? I think there's a lot to admire about this country. I think this country's systems were built to be strong, and I think that there's a lot of things to appreciate about America, you know? But you know, one of the great things about being American is supposed to be the ability to criticize this country, the ability to point out when America's slip is hanging. And I think when it comes to like our last 20 years of conduct internationally and here at home, I think we've been having our slip hanging. We don't have universal health care. Almost every other civilized country on the planet does. We don't have proper care for our veterans, even though we have the most fucking enormous military on the planet. So little of that money is earmarked for veterans care. So much of the money that is earmarked for veterans care ends up just being misspent and malappropriated by people in the power system. And everybody just seems to be tacitly okay with it, even though they all decry it. We've got problems here, and they need fixing. And they're not going to fucking go away because we stop talking about them. But that doesn't mean you can't recognize that, you know, many wonderful things about being born in America. And I'll tell you another wonderful thing about being born an American. We have some of the best food culture in the fucking on the fucking planet. You can find more foods of different cultures here than you can anywhere else. Go somewhere else. Like, I challenge you to find me a place with more foods represented than here. I mean, there's whole fucking varieties of food which are just like completely native to America, right? Like a bunch of them. And I get that that's true of most countries, but still, you know, bunch of fucking foods that are now pretty bog standard that were invented right here in America. The hamburger, invented right here in America. The hot dog, invented right here in America. People would say, no, it's based on the wiener, and that was invented in fucking Austria. And I would say, okay, yeah, but a Wiener is a very different fucking thing from a wiener, okay? If you want this country to be united again, then we need to be able to have this discourse in a civil manner, which we did. No name calling or hate, just an honest debate of ideas. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I try to avoid that sort of thing as long as I detect that kind of energy coming off the other person. As long as the other person isn't being vitriolic or something like that, I try not to be vitriolic to them. And I think that that is just a basic fucking demand of respect. Like, if you want to be respected by people, don't disrespect them if they're not disrespecting you. Most urban sprawls internationally have basically the same basic food options. Cultural specificity, but there's fast food everywhere. Yeah, well, here in America, oh, our urban sprawls at least have some local joints. Is that maybe an area? No, I don't know, because I've never been to Europe and I don't know shit about it because I'm a fucking fat, stupid American, but whatever, at least I know it, right? Now, I don't know shit about Europe. What little I do know is not like fucking backed up by having ever been there, but am I to assume that maybe American small businesses are a little better at taking advantage of urban sprawl than European small businesses, maybe? Like, are Europeans just too used to setting up somewhere in the city center, in the village center, and they're like, we don't know what to do. We can't set up in the city center anymore.
You could fly tomorrow without a license in an ultralight aircraft, entirely legal under Part 103 with the FAA. Assembled aircraft cost less than $6,000 and have less maintenance than a Civic. That is true, Pickle. But the problem is, you can get to way more shit with a Civic than you can with a fucking ultralight, you know? Now, granted, there are ultralights that you can get to all kinds of crazy places in. There are ultralights you would be fucking shocked at the kind of places that you can get to. But, you know, they're not exactly VTOL planes, you know? Just because you can get by on a runway that's like 200 feet doesn't mean you shouldn't have something larger at hand if you've got the option for it. You know, and that limits your options. Like, maybe you can park, like, maybe if you get, oh, but everything would have to go so right. That's the thing. Part of the reason why airports are so long, are so long, is because you have like a spot where you want to touch down, but you're usually gonna overshoot that a little bit, you know, and it's not a bad thing. That's why the fucking runway is so goddamn long in the first place. Because, you know, the newer a pilot you are, the less experience on that type you have, the more likely you are to kind of float down the runway a little while. Sometimes people, like a number of runway offshoots and overshoots and things like that, have been caused by somebody that encountered like a really strong headwind or something like that as they were coming in. They came in a little hot and heavy, and they just fucking floated on down the fucking, you know, floated on down the headwind halfway down the runway, and were too heavy effectively to stop. So, when you don't have that advantage, right, which you wouldn't with a really short runway environment, like if you're trying to land in a Walmart parking lot or land on like a little highway or something like that, you know, you want that 200 to 300 feet of fucking leeway space. Why are you being so hateful, PP Flinch? Can I just ask that? Like, what's got you so bitter in your life, friend? Stop pretending to be something you're not. That's what I was doing when I was boy moding. That's what I was doing before I came out as trans. Now that I'm out as trans, I'm actually living the real person inside of myself outside. Like, I'm like actualized as a human being now. Man, Chad is just abysmal right now. Holy shit. You're only lying to yourself? Well, the Mayo Clinic begs to differ. Something tells me you don't know more than the Mayo Clinic. Oh, Lordy, my trouble's so hard. Oh, Lordy, my trouble's so hard. Ain't nobody know my troubles but God. Ain't nobody know my troubles but God. I hear that train a-comin', it's rollin' around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when, but I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. Time keeps dragging on, and that train keeps rollin' on down to San Antone. What was it like becoming your own influencer and kind of making your own figure away from Paul? Well, the thing is, my original audience was not from Paul. The biggest increase of subscribers that I ever saw before I started streaming came from a video I made about the Sentinelese Indians. So the original 75 to 80 people that were subscribed to my channel were subscribed to me because they watched a video I made about the Sentinelese Indians and John Chow's failed fucking mission to them, which ended with his dead body filled full of arrows, right? And I made the case that he was stupid to have ever gone there, and we need to continue to protect the Sentinelese Indians because there needs to be places where people are allowed to exist in ways that are not the fucking weird, fucked up culture that we've invented. There needs to be another option out there for humanity. Honestly, for no other reason than my own sanity, but for a lot of other reasons too, you know? Anyway, other than that, I posted a couple of music fucking videos back in the day, me playing guitar, and I got 20 or 30 subs from that. And when I started vertical streaming, it wasn't people from Paul's audience that ultimately ended up coming over here, not in high numbers. If you look at my mods, yeah, a few of them are Paul mods. A lot of Paul mods end up becoming mods over here because I trust them. I know their moderation style. I know their standards, Easy to understand why. But when it comes to my actual audience, most people in here, the vast majority of my regulars don't know who Paul is other than he's that dude that Phoebe's had on the channel a couple of times, that person that Phoebe watches a lot, and to me, I think that's a sign of my individuation more than anything, is the fact that so much of my audience does not share correlation with him. Now, I'm super happy for everybody I'm super happy for everybody who is from Paul's audience, who has come over here and donated and supported the channel and helped me do cool things over here. I'm massively appreciative of that. But I'm very lucky to kind of individuated myself kind of early on and, enabled myself to be in a position where my audience is not his audience is not my audience. We're distinct creators, and my growth has been steady, and it feels great. Honestly, it really does. It feels really amazing to have people sit around and listen to me bullshit about world politics and local politics and religion and philosophy and things like that. Let me see here. Thank you for the $9.99. I appreciate that a whole lot. That's kind of you. That's very kind of you. Even though YT takes a third, LOL, wanted to show I'm not just a jerk or have hate in my heart. Thanks for being a good sport for a debate and not just banning me. We'll be back for sure. Well, thank you for the $10. I appreciate that a whole lot. And yeah, definitely come back. I'd love to have you. And if you're serious about flying me out to Palestine for a pro-LGBT soup kitchen, Queers for Palestine, hashtag Queers for Palestine in the chat if you want to see that happen. Anytime Pokeboys is in here, you want to pressure him into doing this, just say hashtag Queers for Palestine, okay? But no, but seriously, you want to do that, just hit me up on Discord. I might consider it, genuinely, obviously I've got concerns being a parent and all, but it's something I would consider, because I genuinely do not fear the Muslims in Palestine. Maybe I should, but I don't. I will be back if you don't end. Well, I'll try not to end. It's only 1:14, and I usually stay on here for a little longer than that, so. Your content has really helped me develop some kind of routine, and it's nice during the summer days when everything seems to just be to kind of loop around and I lose my sense of self. Oh, that's super cool. I'm glad, that makes me happy. That means I need to do these on schedule more often. That way even more people can get that weird little sense of relief and everything. Honestly, I love doing this shit. It is very restorative for me. I wish I had more time in the day for it, and I hope that at some point my life points me in a direction. Well, I hope that my success on this channel continues, and that I'm able to reach more people, and that I'm able to get enough people around that are willing to support me, that I can do this and more of this more often, Be even easier when my child starts school, honestly. Phoebe has a messed up sleep schedule for us. No, honestly, no, Capybara. I have a messed up sleep schedule for, just myself in general. I've always been bad about going to bed late. Nowadays, I do kind of have to do it if I want to stream regularly, but I'm okay with it because I like staying up late anyway. I like kind of being up late. You know, I've always been like that. Probably always will be like that. But I also like getting up earlier than I used to. So, you know, I'm finding a happy balance as time goes on. I think at some point I would like to be in bed trying to sleep by 1 a.m. because if I did that, I could usually wake up between 7 and 8. And I mean, hell, and in the winter, that's basically like waking up at dark almost. Well, not 8. 8 is bright and early, but 7, I mean, that's still pretty fucking dark in winter. You'll sleep when you're dead. What song is that from, really? What song is that? Oh, there is a song that has that in it. I don't know if it's what you're referencing, but there is a song that has that in it. I'm trying to remember the words, though. Trying to remember how the fuck it goes. God damn it. I hate it when this happens, man. Yay, I remembered. I walk only to find my lungs empty through the night. So it seems I'm not breathing, and now my dreams are nothing like they were meant to be. And I'm breaking down. I think I'm breaking down. I'm afraid to sleep because of what haunts me, such as living with the uncertainty that I'll never find the words to say which would completely explain just how I'm breaking down. Someone come and save my life. Maybe I could sleep when I am dead, but now it's like the night is taking sides. And all the worries that occupy the back of my mind. Could it be this misery will suffice? Oh, in my life. That song's hard on my voice, so I'm not going to do the rest of it, but there you go. I hate staying up late if it kills the day for me tomorrow. And if I'm not up by 7 a.m., feels the day's wasted. Yeah, I'm not that way. Maybe if it's not too much to ask, is the Wi-Fi connection cutting out because the internet is bad or because the modem is in another part of the house? If it's the latter, there are Wi-Fi extenders. I should probably get a Wi-Fi extender. Because what's happening is that I'm actually on data right now. And so my data connection is not entirely great out here because like the data connection just in general on this property is not always great. There's spots where it's okay and then the spots where it doesn't seem to be as good. So, but yeah, I probably should get a Wi-Fi extender. I've thought about honestly like asking the family, because this is not my outbuilding, you know, but I have thought about like buying it from the family member whose it is and then outfitting it as a studio, in which case I would probably run an Ethernet cable. I would probably run it overhead, much to probably my parents' chagrin, but I'll fucking broker no argument about it. I don't know why it would be a bad idea. I think it would be a great idea. Because I could just run it up to like a tree. There's a tree next to the house, so I can just run it up to that and then mount like a strong post next to the fucking trailer, you know? They have data in Mississippi? Yeah, well, I mean, like, as long as the telegram lines are up, you know, we can send packets pretty often. Get off data, 2-bar. I can't help it. I can try and get on Wi-Fi. I'll try and turn it on for you guys. But no promises as to whether it works. What about Starlink? I mean, like, it would be pointless for me to get a whole other internet connection just for myself out here when, like, weirdly enough, even though I live... Sorry. Even though I live in Mississippi, I actually have fiber, weirdly enough. The internet service out where I live is fiber, so we can get like incredible internet speeds. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to get an uplink based service when I could get hardwired internet through fiber. And I could do that as long as I just piggybacked off the modem that's on the inside of the house. I would just have to get some weatherproof. So here's all the things I would have to get. Basically, I would have to get some weatherproof fucking Cat 5 cable or Cat 6. I don't know to what standard our modem is. Probably would not hurt to upgrade the modem, but that sort of thing is usually your internet provider wants to be responsible for that kind of thing. So whatever. I'll see what the highest standard of cable that it accepts is and get whatever that standard is. Probably gonna be Cat 5 or Cat 5e or whatever. But yeah, weatherproof Cat 5 cable. I would need like some kind of like thin steel cable to run along so that it's not bearing its own weight. I would need a couple of those little eyelets, basically. I need a couple of eyelets, probably on each post, just to make sure that they're not, going anywhere. And to route them down towards where they go into the respective structures. And I would probably need some kind of bracket at the top. No, I wouldn't either. No, I wouldn't. I would just, like, whatever attachment method I use to the wire, that would be it, because the wire would be supporting the Cat 5 cable. Okay, never mind, yeah. See, I know what I'm talking about. So you live in No, I live in a part of Mississippi where I have good fucking cable internet. It's just like I'm in an outbuilding that's not all that close to the house, and I mean there's like 4 walls or something, at least 2 walls between me and the modem. two walls and like 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet of space, something like that, between me and the modem and the Wi-Fi router. So what I need is either a Wi-Fi extender, shitty, or to run an overhead cable between the house and here with weatherproof Cat 5 on it. That's what I need to do. Can you play songs meant for electric guitars or no? I think by that you probably mean songs with like heavy riffs and shit, and there's only one of those that I can play. If you just mean like rock songs in general, I can play all kinds of rock songs. But if you're talking like riffing specifically, I can do this one song. Freebird. I can't play Freebird, dude. I made a fucking point of not learning any of these popularly requested songs. You're going to hear some obscure shit from Phoebe, or you'll hear nothing. The most mainstream song I know is fucking Wish You Were Here. I do not know Come Out and Play, sadly. Today is going to be the day that it's going to something too. I'm not going to play Wonderwall. So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? Get you to trade your heroes for horses, your hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange the walk-on part in a war for a lead role in a cage? How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. But have we found the same old fears? Wish you were here. What is the salt thing about? What is the salt thing about? What is the salt? Is that salt I'm seeing? Is that something else? Is that another emoji or something? I may not agree with everything you say, but I love that you're doing so much that it outshines any disagreements we might have, and that is a special feeling to create, especially on the internet. Aw. Oh, I love what you're doing so much, she said. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, I don't know where exactly you stand on any given issue. Oh, I can't remember enough of our political conversations to know about that. You might have to specify about things we disagree about, but I like everybody that participates regularly in this chat. I think we've fostered a really wonderful community here. I'm glad that I'm able to foster that. I'm glad that I've been privileged enough to assemble a group of people that are like-minded and interesting and interested in conversation too, that just like to yap, just like me, you know. And you're right, it is a special connection to foster, especially that. Oh, it's a candle. Candle. Gotcha. Candle. Gotcha. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. I would like to get to know you more. Would you play a song that means a lot to you? I don't know if you meant it to sound that way, Matt, but you just made it sound like you're flirting with me so hard. Don't worry, I'm not going to like take it that way because I know you might not have meant it that way, but you know, like the uninitiated would have taken that very differently. So, okay, with that in mind, is that nicotine or weed? This particular one is like gas station THCA. So, cannabis in a sense. Anyway, the other one is nicotine. I'm not sure. I would just like to get to know you more as a person. You're fine, Matt. I was just the way you put it just made me giggle. That's all. You're not in trouble. Don't worry. Anyway, would I play a song that means something to me? Yeah. Yeah, I can for sure. Yeah. Remember that bro was flirting with you, horny as hell? I know, dude. It was fucking crazy. That chasers are wild, though, dude. They got no shame at all. So a song that means something to me. Man, there's so many good options. So many good options. Well, this song's been on my head, been on my mind a lot lately. Well, it's been on my head because George Bush was involved. Sorry. He said I had to put food on my family, but I thought he said I had to put music on my head. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, this song has been on my mind lately a lot, and you know, if you've been watching enough recently, you probably know why. You know a little bit about my life, so. Whatever. Something is fucked up. I've got a kid, his name is Scott. He's going blind and his blood just will not clot. The doctor's line in rows to stick the tubes up Scotty's nose. There's the field where Scotty used to play until Ortho Orange number 42 was dumped in it one day. I think it's so funny, I laugh until I cry, just me and God. Watching just me and God, watching Scotty die. The chemical plant across the street puts off the steam that colors up our white sheets. And it's been happening for years. Yeah, we're crying rainbow tears. One day my dog went out to play. Instead of gray, he came back colored yellow. The chemical man said stay mellow. It happens all the time. Now Scotty's skin is going lime. Just me and God. Oh, watching Scotty die. Me and God. Scotty died. Just me and God, watching Scotty die. Oh man, I don't know why, but the song is making me sad because it's about a little kid dying from pollution in his community, and nobody give a shit. Oh fuck, people ask why I get so fucking worked up on the electoralism thing. It's just like, look at the fucking rotten outcomes, man. Look at what your transitions has bought you. I want to make these people know these people that they're throwing up as shields. Someone to represent their interests, but everyone who acts like they're going to just fucking drifts away on a giant cloud of money. Whoa. I just think this country is sick. Sick as a dog, and I feel like we don't do anything about it. I feel like all we do is sit around and bitch about it. Everybody's trying to cheer me up. You guys, I appreciate it, but you gotta understand the shit affects me. You know, it does. It gets to me. It fucks me up so badly just because they didn't happen to be born rich. They didn't happen to be born middle class. Well, really, they didn't happen to be born rich, because honestly, the middle class gets fucked over with this shit too. They're insulated from it in a way super poor people aren't, but they get their fucking fair share of bullshit. It's the fucking ownership class who never has to worry about any of this shit. It's the ownership class that made some fucking poor slave of theirs dump Ortho Orange number 42 into Scotty's field in that song. Some corporate overlord, some hegemon, some CEO. I get worked up thinking about that shit. It all got to me today, too. It happens, Riley. The older you get, the more often it happens, honestly, for a while. The more you're exposed to it is maybe a better way to put it. Like when I was homeless, I must have had conniptions about that kind of thing every 2 weeks. Not like public freakouts or anything, but just like, I mean, maybe a couple times, but most of them were not public freakouts. Most of them were, I'm my fucking road dog out somewhere in the desert where we barely have any fucking signal, and we're screaming at each other because we can't scream at the people who actually hurt us, so we'll just like scream at each other because gains. Nothing wrong with feeling. People push it down to feel numb. It's all too much for the normal person. The weight of the world watching pain through a glass. Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, people, to some degree, if you're into news content or anything like that, it's just horrible for your fucking mental health if you're exposing yourself to too much of it. And I also think, honestly, that's horrible for your mental health to push out your fucking hard feelings about it. Honestly, genuinely. See, people ask me, how do you tolerate the fucking hate in my chat? And I'm always just like, live about it, because the hate really doesn't bother me. The things that do bother me, though, I let myself cry about them sometimes. It bothers me deeply that this country doesn't give a shit about the victim. That the companies of this country don't care about the victims of pollution until they're made to pay a big settlement. And even then, their rhetoric hardly changes. They're ready to do it to some other community, because it's cheaper than losing out on that business. Hey, gay boy. Hey, faggot. Someday I'm gonna live in your house upon the hill. And when your skinhead neighbor goes missing, I'll plant a garden in his yard, and they're glowing roses on a flatbed. You should see them, I mean thousands. I grew up here till it all went up in flames, except the notches on the door. I don't know when we got taller. Must be something in the water. No, that doesn't sound like the right. I don't think that's the right chord. You ever just get that feeling like you're not on the right chord? Did you call for faggot? I was peeing. Well, I was, well, yes, actually. Yes, I sure did. Only news kind of stuff is The Daily Show. I only watch news with comedy mixed in because that's how I get over things. I feel no compassion towards others experiencing hardship. I imagine it not real. I feel no compassion towards others experiencing hardship. I imagine it's... Man, that's kind of sad, oh. That's kind of sad to me. I mean, maybe you live a better life, a more relaxed life, because, But I can't help but take on the problems of other people. Imagine it as if it was happening to me. Well, at least you're honest about it, though. I think that there's a lot more people like you than people like me would want to think, honestly. But most of them lie about it. Most of them have, like, weird excuses as to why everything they say kind of leads back to, sounds like you kind of just want more people to die, or whatever, right? I think there are a lot of people that are not that self-aware that are like that. But yeah, like, I can understand the viewpoint now that you're explaining it more, like, um, you don't naturally feel a whole lot of compassion for, like, other people going through hardship. Do you think, like, do you still, okay, like, let me ask you this. Does it, like, does it make you sad, like, if you see someone that you know really well experiencing hardship? Or do you kind of cut yourself off from that as well? I feel like I should feel bad for those people, but to me, I really don't care, even though I should. It's just words to me, and I've never been exposed to death stuff. See, that might be part of it, honestly. Like, the harder shit you're exposed to, the more compassion you have for people going through hard shit, And I've been through some hard shit in my life, so I'm compassionate to human beings to a degree that's probably not even safe for myself, honestly. Overexposure makes you numbed out. Yeah, I mean, I think overexposure does make you numbed out, but I also think you need some exposure to. Well, maybe not. I think you can be right and then overexposed to a point where you lose it, right? But I think that part of an adult really solidifying a compassionate worldview usually involves going through hardship themselves. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. I'm not sure. The first real moment of compassion striking me is when I saw the George Floyd video. I couldn't help but cry for hours. Then yeah, okay. So you're not like a sociopath or anything. Not that I consider that like, like, oh, I won't talk to you if you're a sociopath. But I think it is kind of it's a different thing, right? Like, if you don't have any hope of feeling empathy, then that's one thing. But if you do, another thing. As far as like the kind of questions I'll ask. But yeah, so it sounds to me like you have maybe numbed yourself out due to some kind of, like, did you grow up in like a really shitty household or something like that? Like, did you grow up moving around a lot and seeing a lot of hard shit, or did you grow up in foster care by any chance? Because if you had like a really harsh childhood, it's probably not even your fault that you numb yourself to a lot of the stuff that's going on around you as far as like people's hardships and things like that, because that sort of thing becomes part of what you have to do in certain abusive households. Kind of require a lack of compassion. I've been through some things in my life, but I have alexithymia. I don't really show anything in anyone, but I try to fix myself because I think I was a psychopath. Interesting. I've never heard of that, but I'll have to do some reading on it. The sudden shot of human emotion and the feeling of and being scared, and probably thinking about his mom when he was being choked. Other people exist too. Yeah, well, it sounds like you're pretty well adjusted about it, honestly, though. It sounds like you're just not, like, you're a person that's just not gripped with fucking empathy. Like, you're not gripped with empathy the way me and some other people are. And trust me, you wouldn't want to be in my position any more than I would want to be in yours, Like, sometimes being in my position sucks. Like, I just cried on stream for like 5 minutes because I played a song, and someone asked, why is this song so sad? And it was actually you. It was you, that asked, why is the song so sad? And that's what made me cry, right? For you had the vague sense, like, this is sad. This is sad. Why is this sad? It didn't necessarily connect up with you that it's because of the human suffering that's involved, but let me explain it maybe now that I know what position you're working from. think about a kid dying because they just happened to play in a field where some horrible toxic chemical had been dumped by some company that gave a shit. And that kid starts to go through the process of being medically evaluated and diagnosed and treated, but signs are getting worse and worse, and it really seems like he's dying. And you're that kid's mom, sending him off with a bagged lunch for his 4th day of school before his weekend treatments, knowing that it's probably one of the last of a couple of hundred, or, that it's one of a couple of hundred of last bus trips he'll ever make in his little short life, knowing that nothing you could have done except not buy this house that you had no reason not to buy could have affected it. And then one day you're at the hospital waiting for Scotty to die, and he does. Your life is devastated because you saw the whole rest of your life laid out before you. And now he's gone. And he had the whole rest of his life in front of him. And now he's gone. And it's all because some company didn't give a shit. Because it was cheaper for that company to dump that chemical in that field than it was for them to properly dispose of it. I think it would be good to acknowledge that it is okay to feel the way you feel, though. It's okay to not feel, too. If it bothers you, you can actively get in tune with your emotions. You can do that at any time. Yeah, it's not bad to not feel. Well, isn't it, though, kind of, maybe, bad to not feel all the time, ever? Because, like, human cooperation is kind of predicated on the ability of people to look into one another's lives and think, okay, I can see why you feel that way. But maybe I'm wrong. Knocking the door, yeah, it's early morning, I'm at the door. He wants to talk to me about the big JC. Who the fuck is he? Reaches in his shirt and he pulls out a Bible. Says he was a man, just like you and me. The big JC. I don't like his suit and I don't like his tie, and I don't like the fact that he's so happy it can't be for me. The big JC. Sometimes the wheels fall off, and sometimes you can't get up. I'm thinking I don't think much. Sometimes the wheels fall down, and sometimes you can't get up. Well, sometimes I just sit and talk, but I don't think much. No, I don't think much. Boy on the pavement, he's dressed like the 80s. Boy in the pavement, looks like a picture, he's dressed like the 80s. Oh, what happened to me? Twice in my lifetime now. Spent all my teenage years trying not to look like him. Oh, what can I do? Shoulder pads and belts. Oh, I'm sorry, they're jeans. How'd you get them on? Will they ever come off? Will they ever come? Sometimes the wheels fall off, and sometimes you can't get up. Well, sometimes we just sit and think and we don't talk much. Sometimes your world falls down, and sometimes you can't get up. Well, sometimes we just sit and talk and we don't think much. No, we don't think much. No, we don't think much. Knock on the door and it's a dangerous day. Knock on the door and I wonder who it is. It's a dangerous day. He's come to break my house. 'Cause he's a dangerous son, but I like him a lot. Yeah, we talk about music and we talk about pain until we realize that we don't know much about either of them. Go to market and shoulder pins and belts. Go to market in jeans. Those are their tights. Wait, no. Wouldn't hug it in tights. Oh, I'm sorry, they're jeans. Will they ever come off? Will they ever come off? Sometimes the wheels fall off, and sometimes you can't get up. Well, sometimes we just sit and think and we don't talk much. Sometimes your world comes down, and sometimes you can't get up. Well, sometimes we just sit and think and we don't talk much. No, we don't talk much. No, we don't talk much. I eat now. Good. Yummy. Not failing is valid. If your emotional state is impeding your life or dangerous, then that is when to worry about it. Yes, 100%. To share information about myself because I feel like sharing it. I've been at an inpatient facility multiple times. Some are deeply personal and some involve autoerotic asphyxiation. Well, that was a fucking overshare if I've ever heard it, but you know what? We accept all kinds here, you know? And you're just following a well-established tradition. What was it? Fucking, who was it? Who was that dude who fucking died doing autoerotic asphyxiation? You know, I wonder if any of the people from my past, like, watch this channel. I desperately want to know if anyone who knows me in real life watches this channel. Because I've been a volatile fuck throughout my life, and I've lost more friendships than most people have ever had in their lives. And so I wonder, you know, if there's any of them out there. Sorry, I'm just sitting over here having fun. I'm actually saying Max, but right now I just write stories. Right on, righteous. That's cool. Hey, that's fine. Posted my new track and it's dope. Good, Post. That's good. More music is always good. Anyway, well, I'm going to see you guys later. Thank you guys for hanging out, but I'm going to go ahead and go. Yeah, y'all have a good one.